All right, guys. Good afternoon. I almost said morning. Good morning, everyone. Steve Taylor, host of MSP Webinars here. I'm joined by Jeff Hardy, who is currently on my left, which I don't know which one it is because cameras always get flip flopped. So here's the rundown. Today we're going to talk about MSP Manager. It is a PSA by SolarWinds. And if you guys have questions about it, you are welcome to pop into the Ask a Question area and start asking questions now. And if there's a question that you see in there already that you like, you can actually vote for those questions. And I will vote for the highest rated question. We'll ask the highest voted questions first. Okay. So feel free to hop in there and do that. Now, just so you all know, coming up next week, we have a Kaseya Tech Talk. Sorry, Jeff. Please don't be mad. But we are doing that on Tuesday. It's not our normal Thursday, so people won't even know, right?
That's exactly it.
Thursday, we've got our monthly roundtable mastermind group. And a week from Thursday, we have Tech Reputation coming on. So those are the next 3 webinars that we have happening after this one here. And without further ado, I would love to pass it on to Jeff Hardy from SolarWinds. Jeff, could you tell us what exactly is your role over at SolarWinds?
Sure. So currently I'm a sales engineer for the SolarWinds MSP solution. I've been here a while, so I've held and had many hats. So pretty much if we have a product, I was probably either an executive or an engineer for it. So, but yep, go ahead.
No, I was just saying excellent.
Yeah.
So sales engineer, that means you're like an expert at this software then, right?
Yeah, we'll say that. Absolutely. I'm quite knowledgeable for sure.
Perfect. I've already got people leaving comments.
Uh-oh.
No, it's good. It's good.
Hopefully they like me. If they don't, then they were planted by you. I'm just kidding.
If you know what, if they don't like you, they can just deal with it because it's you. This is your show for the next 60 to 100, 120 minutes. Okay, so they can
Fantastic.
just deal with it.
All right. Well, you guys are ready to get started, or what do you think?
I say let's get started. I see you've got your screen shared here, and I'm going to focus on that screen.
Okay, great.
So feel free to get started. Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. All right, everyone. Well, thank you for joining us today. So they wanted us to do a little bit of a talk or speak on the MSP Manager solution through SolarWinds MSP. So I wanted to start out just a little bit to kind of give you a background of where the product had come from. So initially, the product itself was called Capture, and it was its standalone, its own product on its own, started because an MSP said, you know what, I don't like the products out there, and he decided that, hey, you know what, we're going to create our own product. And within like 6 months or so, there was a company called SolarWinds that said, hey, you know what, we need to get that product. So they ended up bringing it into the portfolio. Well, before that, there was actually Enable was another product as well that was acquired by SolarWinds. So it became SolarWinds Enable, and then they brought the Capture solution into the fold there as well. And then they turned it into and named it MSP Manager. Now, as you already know, if you guys have been on the other side as far as using the Max solution or GFI Max or Logic Now, Max Focus, there was a joke about what are we calling ourselves this year? Well, obviously we were acquired by SolarWinds as well. And they had taken the Max or Logic Now solutions, and they had also taken the Enable or the Incentral products and all that good stuff, and they actually merged the two together, and they've called it SolarWinds MSP. So as a focus, the MSP Manager solution is the PSA ticketing solution that we're focusing on in this case. So I hope I'm not disrespectful to anyone that's on the call or on the line. So I do want to kind of started out in regards to understanding why you'd have a product like this. Now, if it's If it's something that's super boring, or if you guys just don't care, or if you're like, I've been using this kind of product forever, get past that and just show me the good stuff. Definitely let Steve know, and I'll just skip right on along. But understanding why you'd have a product like this in the first place is that, being the value of being, say, reactive versus proactive. So as you already know, you've probably heard the term MSP, Managed Service Provider. Now, it's quite common that term is, I'm not going to say overused, but it may be a situation where everybody's more of a hybrid than they are a full MSP. Now, if you are a full MSP, awesome, you finally gotten to that point. But there's others that like to eat on a regular basis. And if somebody wants to give them money to do work, then they'd absolutely be able to and want to do that. But having the value of being proactive versus just the reactive is kind of some of the things that we would talk about in this case, and even some of those barriers and the benefits, and even having that integrate with, say, your SolarWinds RMM solution, or even the N-Central solution. So it integrates with both products. So just to let you know on that particular front. So as far as the reactive, proactive, now what is reactive, what is proactive? So for example, let's just say that the reactive side, well, basically something's broken. And at this point now you're trying to repair that issue, versus the proactive where their customer is that is already paying you that money. And at this point now you're actually being paid to keep it up and well. So when things are down, that's actually bad, right? So, for example, on the reactive side, if everything is an emergency, nothing is an emergency. And I'm not saying that you're not doing a good job on your own, but there's a reason why products like this exist, for example. And the reason why is because, well, it says things fall through cracks. That is absolutely the case. That if you have not figured out a way to prioritize what it is that you're doing, that at that point, something could fall through the cracks, something could be missed. And it's not that you're intentionally doing that, it's just that you get busy, you're multitasking, you're doing this, that, and the other all at once. And it's hard to prioritize what needs to be finished first, right? And again, that's normally that fixed, that break fix hybrid style model. But on the proactive side, on the other case, it's a little less chaotic. It's a little more organized. It actually would help you keep technicians too. So think about if everything's on fire every day, how much would you actually want to show up for work? Versus, hey, you know what? We already have the issues that are in the particular situations that you have, but we are actually have our customers that we're doing maybe our bi-weekly visits or monthly visits, or maybe you just do remote sessions for those guys and that kind of thing. So you can always keep things going all the time because their issues, or excuse me, their devices are actually in your remote management or monitoring solution. And then when there's issues that arise from there, you could actually bring that into, say, your ticketing if you're talking about the devices directly, because you and I both know that the customers are going to email you for sure when they have issues. But being able to use it on the proactive side, you can actually start writing out standard operating procedures. So therefore, when things are well, and then an issue arises, at that point, they would be able to, or you'd be able to actually delegate that to, say, a technician, for example. And if you think about it, that would allow you to not be the one to solve everything. So you didn't create yourself a job, it's actually a business at that point. So being able to delegate that to your technician would allow you to duplicate yourself, which if you've ever heard of J. Paul Getty, he says that I'd rather have 1% of 100 people's efforts than 100% of my own. Well, as far as the proactive side, obviously for your customers, that would save you that time and energy as well, because, well, they're not having to wonder about downtime and things of that nature. Then, of course, having proactive monitoring that would allow you to be able to fix that beforehand, that it would allow you to catch those things before they even become a problem in the first place. So if you have the right checks and scripts in place, that kind of thing, that, again, it would allow you to keep the customer as productive as possible. And then, of course, like I mentioned on your technician side, remember, if you're waiting for something to break, not only is everything on fire, if everything is on fire, that you'd have the ability to be able to take all of those issues and be able to manage those within that same ticketing solution that is integrated into that product. And then, of course, as far as the issues or the barriers, one would be money. So, it's not free, but if you can figure out a way to basically make yourself more money by being more efficient with what you have. So that would be a possibility that you would want to be able to accomplish there. But you'll notice that, for example, a post-it notes is actually not even a comedy thing. It's just, sometimes that could be a situation that the way that you write down issues, or even the email or spreadsheets. But more importantly, you'll notice that that a lot of times those free tools are not quite as configurable. So when you want to kind of upgrade to a solution that even integrates with your RM, and even if it doesn't, or even maybe you're not even ready for the RM solution, but you'd have that ability to still manage tickets from your customers. But as it mentions there, it says beware the bloatware. There are products that are excellent products out there, but sometimes they just have more than what you need. And if you're losing money by spending more than you should, then just think about that. Now, the PSA side of that, just remember, being able to manage your work and the time tracking, and of course, being able to schedule, and then of course, being able to bill. That's super important as well, because if you have problems and then you resolve them, how are you going to get paid? Whether it be a break fix model or the proactive model, either way, the ticketing solution could allow you to be able to do that. Then, of course, being able to fix things as far as the actual the issues that are going on in regards to what you had mentioned to the customer at what the problem was. You've got the proper documentation, and then when it's actually time for them to pay, for example, you'd have written documentation as in what the problem was, the steps that you completed to fix that, and obviously at that point, assuming that they approve the work in the first place, at that point they would just basically pay you, right? All right, so what I just wanted to kind of throw that out there a little bit, because I wasn't sure the gauge of the pure audience, if everyone had already used products like this before, or if they're still information gathering altogether. So I did want to kind of throw that out there. But so now I'm going to actually flip directly over to the MSP Manager solution. Now, what's interesting is there's actually two versions of the product right now. So think of it like this, just looking at the URL where it says APP. What this is referring to is this is our current version of the MSP Manager solution. So, for example, if you went to the SolarWinds MSP.com website and you decided that you wanted to start up a trial, or maybe you're already using the trial, that's probably going to be the URL that you're using in this particular case, right? Well, you'll notice that, oh, trying to click on something, come on back. Oh, there it was. It was hiding behind the other. Sorry. All right. So anyway, so as you can see with the MSP Manager solution, there are the two URLs. The other one is basically, if you're clicking on the Try Now solution here, this is our newest version. It's called NGP. So we're super excited about that. Now, I will tell you that if there are any challenges that you may find in the new version, it's something that they're working on and addressing on just about a daily basis. So so basically, if you're looking for the normal or the regular version, definitely check it out here. But you can also log in with the same credentials here as well. And just think of it as like two doors to the same house, right? So looking at the product in this particular scenario, you'll notice that we have this ability to come in under what we call dashboards, for example. Think of this as your technician's dashboard, right? So within the area here, this would give us the ability to look at tickets that are worked versus completed, and even hours worked as well. And we'd have that ability to look at it from what it looks like, say, for today versus for this week versus for this month, even for the year, or some random custom time frame, if that's what you're trying to accomplish in this case. You'll also notice that there's an area called My Tickets. Now, this My Tickets area is, think of you as the technician. Now, if you're a one-man shop, this may not be as valuable, because the help desk area is going to look exactly the same, because all the tickets are yours anyway, right? But you'll notice that within this view, you can see that we currently have timers running. So that means that you could possibly have two devices that are, say, at the same location that you're working on. And at that particular case, you'll actually notice that they're both running. And if you feel like that's not right, you can obviously do a pause on any point, and maybe you have a phone call that comes about. And at that point, you can pause them and only work on the one that's a focus at that time, right? So then there's also the ability to come in and do filtering, whatnot, depending on what you're looking for in this case. But more importantly, there's also an area here called, yes.
I'm so sorry to cut you off, but the ticket screen, can you go back into that for me, please?
Sure.
Now, what resolution is your monitor?
Actually, I'm not sure. Why is it small?
It's
Or,
super tiny. I wasn't sure if you were on like a 4K.
well, let's make it a little bigger. Does that help a bit, or is that too much?
No, that's good. Now it's too much.
All right.
There you go.
Is that good?
So a little better, yeah. So
Okay.
if I'm seeing this correctly, you've got there's a lot going on this screen. So I'm just trying to
Sure.
figure everything out. So on all of these, are these actual tickets?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Each of these are, say, tickets. And if you had timers currently running that you haven't completed the work, I mean, obviously you don't have to have that many timers running at a time.
Mm-hmm.
But if you did, you could manage that from the dashboard or from the My Tickets area in this case.
So and people are saying it's blurry, and I don't think there's anything we can do about that, guys, because that is a bandwidth issue on Jeff's part. So I don't know if Jeff, maybe you want to turn off all those torrents you're running and
But I
I
mean,
think that's just
you
how
know,
SolarWinds has their firewall set up.
it's possible. Well, I got Jurassic World. I figured I'd go ahead and get it today before it came out in theaters. So, let's see. Oh, yeah. Let me double check one more thing here. Sorry, guys.
No problem. It's
Go on.
clear. It's clear enough for me to see what I'm looking at, and so I can read check failed, disk space check, yada yada yada.
Okay.
73.93 hours. Is that how much time you've worked on this one?
That is correct, and it's still currently running.
Man, you guys aren't very good at this. 73 hours to fix a
Hey, well,
All
we
right,
got to
so-
eat, so we're going to charge for a lot of hours. So.
all right, so back to being serious.
Yeah.
All right, and then I see there's a little drop down on the very right.
Yes. For any of those tickets, if you wanted to go in and edit the ticket, you could obviously double click or click on the hyperlink here as well. But you could go in and add a time entry and expense, even add this to an appointment, for example. So maybe you need to go on site for that particular ticket that you could actually just jump into or add an appointment directly so that it puts in directly into your calendar. So it could be a situation where there's an issue that you started on remotely, but you've gotten to the point where all your remote tricks are done. You're going to have to just go on site and fix it, for example. And if that's the case, you could take that ticket, and maybe you have a couple other tickets as well that could jump directly into it, or add those tickets directly to a calendar appointment. That would create an iCal that sends directly to your email address so that you could lock that directly into your Outlook or G Suite.
Okay, so it does not integrate with them, but you'll at least create an iCal for us.
Correct. Yeah, it's not a two-way integration. It is a one-way out. Correct.
Okay, so if that appointment changes, so let's say the customer sends us a response that says, "Oh, you know what? Instead of Wednesday, can we do this on Thursday?" What happens?
So what I would do in that particular case is all you'd have to do is actually go into your calendar directly in MSP Manager, move it from, say, Tuesday to Wednesday. Like, for example, I don't want to feel like I'm jumping around just because of the call, but I do want to make sure that we address what I'm referring to. So, for example, if it's on Tuesday and Wednesday, so it's Thursday today. So this one was on Wednesday. Hey, we missed that one, for example. Maybe we need to put that one this afternoon. I can just grab that and drag it on down. It'll do the updates of the information. If there were any tickets attached, we'd see those down here as well. Just hit save. And what that'll do is actually send a new iCal out with an invite, and even it'll send out, with the orange line in italic. So it looks just like you just made an adjustment to an Outlook calendar event. Does that make sense? You still there? Did I lose you guys?
No, I'm so sorry. I
Nope. No,
hit
you're
mute
fine.
because I was coughing earlier, and then I
Oh,
had an ID10T error. So
gotcha.
does it actually delete or move or whatever the
Yes.
calendar entry on my calendar if I make this change?
If you make the change from within MSP Manager, yes, it'll move that, and it'll update the old one to the new. So yes, because it uses the same information. Correct.
And then
Now,
is this also going to invite the contact on the ticket? So my customer, for example?
So when you actually create the calendar invite, so let me jump into what an invite looks like, for example. Actually, no, let's do it from the ticket directly because that's where we were. So for example, we were looking at, we'll just look at a ticket. Doesn't really matter which one. So for example, if we were looking at the device here, and if I go in to add an appointment, for example, I'd have that ability to come in, and obviously I could assign that to myself or one of my techs, right? Then there would also be the ability to come in and notify others. So it could be a situation where I've assigned that to my tech, and I'm actually going to come in and say, for example, notify myself, right? So I could notify myself, or I could have that ability to come in and let me click save here and go and add one more thing to the ticket. It requires a ticket subject line. All right, so give me just a second. Let's just, yeah, it is. Yeah, especially if you're going to assign it, you might want to tell them what you're doing. So anyway, up here quickly and easily, I'd have the ability to come in and add, say, for example, a location, and I can even add a technician or an employee of the company. So maybe I need to meet up with them because they have the key to the server room or something. I don't know. It doesn't really matter what the reason is, but you'd have the ability to, like you said, notify them. Now, it's not going to add them to the calendar invite, but it will send them a notification of the appointment.
Gotcha.
But that's super simple to add their information. Actually, let me do it back over. And there's the one for work, right? So then I can come in to this particular one and I can add Mr. Testy there, right? So there you go. So now I send a notification to myself, one over to the end user, and then if it's actually being assigned to another technician, that I could see that right there as well. So it was scheduled for, so I could add it for Mr. Coffee here.
Perfect. And just real quick, for those of you that are joining us late, it is 1:22-ish on Thursday. We've got Jeff Hardy from SolarWinds showing off MSP Manager, the PSA that integrates with Enable and MSP RMM.
Mm-hmm.
I was trying to
Correct.
remember its name. No offense.
No, trust me, it's been a running gag with the customers that they're like asking about the name of the product, and I'm like, well, is your bill paid? And then you can call it whatever you want.
All right, go. I know we've already got 16 questions, but keep going through your presentation.
Sure.
And then what I think I'll do is I'm just going to have to ask all these questions at the end. So for those of you that have posted your questions early, I'm so sorry to make you wait, but we're going to do it like this today.
All right, awesome. So anyway, we were looking at it earlier from the technician's perspective. Now, let's say that you want to look at this from, say, the owner of the company's perspective, for example. And the great part is that, again, like I mentioned, you can see this here, that I could also come back in under the other side and look at the exact same product. So if anyone joined late, I'm referring to that we currently have the released version of app.mspmanager.com now. And if anyone starts up a trial of that solution, you have the ability to click the Try Now button at the top, and it actually would bring up our new version where it says it's basically 2 doors into the same house. So when I'm seeing 2 different tabs here, it's the same product, the same login. It's just this is our newer version, and this is one that they're basically advancing or enhancing quite a bit right now. So to look at what we were referring to as the user stats. So the word user in our terms is referring to the technician or the login that is at the admin level, for example. And it doesn't necessarily have to have full administration, but more than just an end customer. So in this case, you'll notice that if we go through it, we could actually find, say, there's this guy, Jeff Hardy. That guy's working hard, right? So you can see that for today, and matter of fact, again, this works like it on both sides. And you'll see in this case where we have myself, whether I'm looking at what I've done today, which I've done nothing apparently, but how have I worked for the week? And then, of course, how I've worked for last week. And now that you see the color schemes, there's 3 colors listed. There's orange, green, and blue. So the orange refers to time entries that have been added to tickets that have not been closed. So, that's important to know because you're leaving money on the table because, well, actually maybe you're leaving unhappy customers too because the ticket hasn't been completed yet. Then, of course, there's green, which means it's time entries that have been added to a ticket. And then, of course, the ticket has been closed, but it hasn't been billed yet. So maybe it's a follow-up. What's going on? Why haven't we billed that yet? Or maybe the admin just hasn't run billing until Friday or whatever. And then, of course, blue means it's gone through all three. So when you see those colors, that's what we're referring to in this case. So you can look at that for the year, last month, this month. So I don't know, maybe you've built around some kind of enhancements for your employees that if they help bill out X amount of dollars, maybe you want to track that here if that's what you're looking for. So just another option. You'll see the service utilization area. Think of this as in the system, we have what they call service plans or agreements. And within those agreements, you'd have the ability to go through and add in, say, for example, maybe the customer has prepaid for X amount of hours. And if that's the case, you could come in and track that. And or maybe they're just an hourly customer. So at that point, you just want to make sure the rates are right. Are they using those? Or it could even be a situation where you have a money retainer where maybe the customer gives you X amount of dollars per month and you just deduct from that, depending on if it's a remote session or an on-site session, or if it's after hours emergency, but basically what per hour rate are they charging? It could even be a situation where you have a managed versus a non-managed customer, again. So you'd have the ability to go in and track that information, and you can see if you're losing money, making money, how's that agreement going. You can even see how it worked. Say, for example, for the next billing period, if that's the case. The reason why this one's not allowing me to go left or right, because you can see that it's in a year agreement, and it hasn't gone through a full cycle yet. So if it were a monthly thing, you could go backwards also. User activity. This is actually a great place to look in regards to the owners of companies. If they're techs, that this would be the place where they would be able to micromanage without micromanaging, right? So they'd be able to see the technician, what they've done. So like, hey, no activity, we might want to talk about that. Or what ticket are they working on? Is it the one that you expected them to? Are they doing what you asked them to do? That kind of thing. So simple things where you could just look at it and you wouldn't even necessarily have to ask. You'd already know. Then there's also the area up here, the top right. In the old version, it's called account settings. In the new version, it's just called settings. So you'll see that the new version is much, much faster in a lot of ways because they've worked on the speed. So if you've ever had anybody that used the APP version and they said how slow it was, they probably were not wrong, but it's mainly the reason why is because they were working so hard on the new one that they did not address the speed on the old as much. But anyway, looking at it in this case, you can add in obvious things like a ticket mailbox. So it uses IMAP over SSL if you'd like, and it'll check for, say, unread emails every minute or two, something to that effect. Then there's an option here that's called notifications. You'll notice where it says ticket request versus a ticket. So it's great to have the ticket request option. So for example, say an email address comes into your support box that is not a part of your current managed agreement, but now it's somehow another triggered SLAs that are coming about and it makes you look bad. Well, you don't want that information to corrupt your data because that's important. So you can actually have things come in as what they would call a ticket request. And simply put, it's an email address that you do not have a business relationship with, for example. So if that's the case, maybe it's a situation where you used your support at email address to, I don't know, maybe you get a discounted Groupon at Chili's or something, and now you're getting spam email, and you want that to be separate from your customers. So, and basically with those requests, you can have certain technicians receive those versus the actual tickets. So maybe with the new tickets, you want those to go to a couple of your frontline techs so that they can at least address that and acknowledge and communicate. And you can also obviously have the external contact receive information as well. Then even when a ticket gets assigned, who needs to receive that? The most logical is the person it's assigned to, but if you want it to go to others, you can do that as well. Then even when a customer adds a response, how do you want to handle that? When a ticket gets marked as complete, maybe you want that to go to your internal admin that does the billing. So when that ticket is completed, time to bill as soon as it comes in. Then, of course, expiry items. Think of this as simply put as whether you have Dell or HP boxes that you're managing the warranty for, or maybe you want to manage your SSL certs or firewall warrant. It doesn't really matter what it is. I mean, heck, it could be a situation that you want to say that you take the trash out on Thursday. So you go ahead and set up a reminder or whatever that it tells you about that or something like that, right? So that could be an option if that's what you really want. you could do that as a scheduled ticket or in this manner. But you'll also notice in this case we have customer service items. Think of these, the agreements with your customers. Now there's one thing up here that some of our MSPs and IT companies love, the other ones hate it, but either way, it says that you can let it expire. Why would you do that? Well, bills increase, rates change, but if you never have a place where you can blame the system, because you can do that, you can absolutely blame the system for the rates increasing or that the agreement is expired. And at that point, you can get the ability to go pull some data and go, hey, you know what, this actually did make us money, or maybe it didn't, that kind of thing, right? So you could go in and actually have those expire so you can have those conversations. Then you'll notice under the portal area, you can have an end user web portal that your customers could go to, log in, and be able to open up a ticket if maybe they don't have Outlook at their local organization. Then you'll see even integrations as well. We do have integrations with QuickBooks Online and Desktop, and even Xero, and of course even in Central and the remote management solution, and even Service Desk. There's a migration option that's listed. Now, it's technically in beta right now. It is coming out in a few months or so. And the main reason why it's even listed there and available is if somebody wanted to move from Service Desk to the MSP Manager solution, that is an option if that's what they'd like to do. All right, so you can see here where we have the user management area. Think of this as your technicians. So moving down the line, users, roles, access groups. Very simply put, users is who can and cannot access the system. Because within those roles, or excuse me, within those users, they could be you, they could be your technicians. It could even be if there's an internal IT staffer at one of the locations you're supporting that maybe you want to, maybe this was the company that you tried to pitch the full managed agreement and they weren't interested. And then maybe you pitched the partial managed agreement and they weren't interested. But then at that point you said, well, how are you managing your tickets? And they say, well, you know, email, spreadsheets, post-it notes, whatever. Well, you could actually allow them to use the system at their location only. And then at that point, when they have issues that they cannot address, they can actually escalate those back to you guys. And since they're using your system, you've cornered the market and created another potential revenue stream, right? So what you would do in that particular case is you could create a role for users. Then you'd have a role, users with roles. And within those roles, you'd be able to say what they can and cannot do. So for example, looking inside of one of the roles, in this case, say the administrator, right? So that's the one that would be able to do everything. But it's quite customizable in regards to what you can do or not do. So if you want them to be able to create tickets but not delete, if you want them to be able to run timesheet reports but not anything to do with billing, or even customer management, you can create them but don't delete them, or even user management. So you can add users, or maybe you don't want them to add users because, well, that's how you're billed upon, or that's how your invoice is based upon in this case. So you could actually allow them not to. Maybe they can edit current ones, but not create new ones. Then obviously billing, if it's someone that doesn't need to see the billing information, you can just go and uncheck that box real simply put. Then even the MSP manager, the MSP company management. So if you just don't want them to see any of the back-end settings, you'd have the ability to basically limit on that as well, okay? Then, of course, the access groups. So roles are what you can and cannot do. Access groups are who you can and cannot do that for. So this could be a situation where you have access to everyone. Or it could be just the customers from A through F. So maybe you've got a couple of techs and you split them up by alphabet. Or maybe there's a situation like we were talking about just a minute ago, that you've allowed the internal tech for a company to actually have full access. Well, all you'd have to do is just come in and create an access group that only involved, say, one customer, right? So at that point, when you attached it or applied it, that it would only have one customer applicable and available for them to be able to see. Then there's the billing area. I actually love the way that they've done this, because in the past, it used to be a situation where you'd have to create an agreement for every single customer. And maybe there was a situation where you had some customers that actually have the same agreement. So you're working hard on the business and you started to figure out that, hey, you know what, maybe I shouldn't offer every single customer a completely different agreement because I'm spending so much time billing that I'm not making as much money. Even if you're not actually spending the extra money, you're not saving the time. But what if I could tell you that in this particular scenario, you could go into your rate templates, for example, add in all the agreements that you have. You'd even have the ability to do a drop down and select your mapped items from your QuickBooks Online or desktop solution. and basically put in your after hours, your on-site rate, your remote hours, all that good stuff. So I have all of those added in. And then what you could do from there is actually go to the service plans area and go in and add in service plans. So for example, you have options like flat fee, hour retainer, hourly money retainer, and even project. So say for example, flat fee would be as simple as if you've worked out an all-you-can-eat agreement with a customer, that this is how you could bill for that. Or it could even be a situation where maybe you bill per server or per workstation. And this is actually where that would tie in with the RM solution that you're using, whether it be in Central or with SolarWinds RMM, for example, that it would be able to bill per device. Say it's every workstation or every server. So like, for example, let's say we left that at flat fee, and we'll just call this one, maybe we just call it server, for example, right? And I can come in and say we bill that per monthly, and maybe it's $150 a month, right? Then we say use asset count, but here's the trick. We can actually click the radio button here, and actually instead of making it all assets, for example, we only bill those against servers, right? There's also a scenario that maybe it's not called server, but maybe it's called workstation AV. And maybe it's not monthly, maybe we bill that on a yearly basis. And instead of those being servers, maybe it's workstations. But the trick is that because we've added tags to devices, or the ability to add tags, you could actually add the tag to a device, for example, and maybe you only bill for AV. So what you could do there is, let's say you have a customer that has, say, 30 workstations, and maybe they have 2 spares that you keep as for asset tracking for purposes, but you don't actually actively manage those devices, and you don't put AV on them because, well, you don't want to spend the money on it for nothing. So you could actually set it up in this manner that it only billed against the devices that had that AV tag, okay? Then of course, there's options under where it says flat fee here. We have the hour retainer. That's kind of self-explanatory. If you have block hour agreements with customers, maybe they prepay for a few hours a month, you could have this set up so that you could deduct those hours from that agreement first. And then of course, you could even add in overage rates. So obviously, once they run out of hours, you need to bill them money, unless there's some agreement or deal where you actually add in another X amount of hours, for example. Then the hourly, kind of self-explanatory there as well. That's your time and materials. Then even the money retainer we were talking about, where they would bill, you would bill against or ask for money, and you could deduct directly, depending on if it's an on-site or remote hour. And then even project work. So you'd have the ability to come in under a project, for example, and just think of it as simple as something outside of scope. So that you could create a project with a project name and be able to attach tickets to it, and be able to manage that project, for example. Now, it's not full Gantt charts, but it does have some pretty cool features that we've added to the system, for example. So let's just say, for example, that we did have a project, right? That there's also an area in our system that is called task templates, okay? So if we went to the task templates area, let's just say you had a project of O365 migration, right? Or maybe you're onboarding a new employee. So this could be borderline project or even standard operating procedures for a particular customer. And when you went into a ticket, so for example, we're looking at the help desk area, and we'll just look at a ticket, doesn't really matter which one. So you'll notice that when we go into that ticket, for example, that we'll be able to come up here in the top right-hand corner. And there's one option here called ticket tasks. I could come in and I could add in tickets. And as I complete things, you'll notice that the little things check off, plus they're even added directly to tickets. So what you could do, for example, is you could create a ticket, apply it to the project, and maybe you have multiple tickets that are applied to that project. So therefore, it could just be outside of scope. All right, so I'm going to jump back over to the settings area. So we were looking at that just a minute ago, where we were looking at the billing area and then service plans. So within the service plans, what you would do now is actually take those plans or those agreements, and when you hear the word service plan, think of service plan as at the MSP company level versus a service item, which is at the customer level only. So if you're ever creating an item, a service item for a customer, that means that it's probably a legacy customer that has an agreement that you wish you could take back. Everybody has at least 1 or 2 of those. It's the customers that they brought on back before their business was really up and going. So they gave somebody a sweetheart of a deal, and they don't have the nerve to actually stop it, right? That's the toughest, is to fire a customer, and you don't want to, but you know what I'm talking about. So you'll see here where we have program levels that basically under those program levels, think of these as your service offerings. So maybe this is the silver, gold, vibranium package that you've created for the customer, for example. And now what you would basically do is go in, say, for example, we're adding a program level, and we'll just call this one Best for Steve, right? And then obviously description. Somebody asked me what the description was for. I said, well, I would assume that at some point you'd like to sell your business one day, and hopefully for more money than you paid for it. If you didn't have any money to start, then you know what I mean. But basically the description in this case, this is where you would put in your documentation, because you know that's key. But putting in the documentation into your product and be able to say, hey, you know what, Mr. Person that wants to buy my company, here's exactly what this service is, this agreement here, and you can read that yourself. But you'll see here where within that agreement, you can see the service plans. What you would do once you've created those plans is you just come in and start attaching those to the agreement that it applies to. So maybe they have some backup, right? Because you could have a backup tag that only backs up. Maybe you have a Hyper-V host that has a few guests on it, and you're backing those guests up from the host. Well, you're not billing them for all backup for those servers. It's only for the host, right? So you could put a tag on there as well. Maybe you're billing for AV, and again, just think about what you bill for. You could have these all as your offerings, and then at that point, it's as simple as going under the customer area and then just selecting who does it apply to. So maybe it's the brand new customer. So think of it as onboarding, scaling and onboarding. So you can start standardizing everything that you're doing, and it propagates that information down as simple as me clicking Save Program Level. That actually will propagate that information down. Now, it could just be one customer here. It could be 100. So think about creating those 100 agreements over and over again, right? All right, so moving on, that basically kind of explains how the billing part works as well. But you'll notice under the templates here as well, we have the notifications. There's approximately 19 templates that you could go in and modify. So whether it be, remember all of the notifications we were talking about earlier, not only can you receive or decide who receives them, but also what do they receive. So whether you want that to be in English format, plain text, or even HTML, or maybe you don't speak English, or maybe your customer that you're supporting does not. There's all sorts of languages that you'd have the option, whether it be French or even Spanish or Portuguese or even Italian. So they're definitely customized a little bit more there as well. And then now underneath it, here's where the actual text is, or the HTML is. So you'll notice that if I click on edit here, if you guys speak full HTML&Es, you'd have the ability to come in and do modifications here. And if you're not sure what options you have as far as variables, you can click on this option at the top right-hand corner, and there's our variables and their types, and even the values as well, okay? SLAs, think of the SLAs as, well, we talked about agreements. So you can actually attach agreements directly to your service plans. And what you would do there, for example, is let's say that you have a per server agreement and then a per workstation agreement. But you know, you want your servers to be handled a little differently. So maybe your servers need to be replied back within an hour, but your workstations, it could be a 24-hour window. You can set up SLAs to trigger that type of information. And maybe it's a critical server, and maybe it's supposed to have been done yesterday. So it could be like an immediate type of scenario, right? Then even ticket routing rules. Think of it as right now, they're a bit basic, and I'm just going to be honest with you on that. But I will tell you that they are absolutely working on this information. Now, from the ticket issue types, think of it as you could have things as simple as your remote management outage, right? And then maybe there are situations underneath it that you break those down by what kind of feature of the product that was having the issue. Or it could be a situation that maybe it's a hardware issue, maybe it's keyboard, mouse, right? So there's all those kind of options. But then there's an option listed called user skills. So now what you could do is actually come in here and say, click on that where it says, well, Amanda is really great at, you know, the hardware keyboard. Now I know that sounds kind of corny, but you could see where we could make sure that those are routed, say based on user skill. So maybe you have your admin and you want to make sure they don't ever receive a ticket. So you could just put 0 in their name. Team configuration, I think this is self-explanatory as well, where we have a tier 1, tier 2, just things that you need as far as business-wise. Then queues, this is actually a new piece that they're building out. Currently, well, before queues was not available, but they've actually added that in, and they're working on building that into our workflows. So that is something that is coming as well. Ticket routing rules, simply put, when you get an email, how do you want that to be routed? When something comes from the customer portal, how do you want that to be routed? Now, these are a bit basic, and the reason why is because the workflow and rules is actually something that they're working on right now. So, for example, say that you're using the system, and maybe we want to add a rule. Just kind of give an example here. So let's just say, for example, anytime you have an OS type of and equals, maybe it's I don't know, we'll just say it's XP, right? Or maybe we even add another condition and say that if it's on, and maybe it just contains the abc.com domain, okay? So just think about different triggers you could create here in regards to. And it even could be a situation that maybe it's a ticket and you're basing it on the title that contains the word server down, right? So then you could actually handle that differently. Maybe you want that assigned to a particular technician, or yeah, you could basically just auto route it. So that's coming. So I don't know if anybody was looking for that kind of information, but it's absolutely on its way. Knowledge settings underneath the ticket routing area. Basically, you can create different asset classes, whether you're building out, firewall, switches, network, router, switch, servers, workstation, doesn't really matter. Whatever it is that the customer supports, and you want to add that kind of class in, you can absolutely do that. Now, I will tell you that when you integrate that with your, say, N-Central or with your remote management solution, that you'd have the ability to have some of this auto-populate based on the devices that propagate or migrate into or integrate with the product, okay? And then, of course, status. Well, you can create something here if you want. Maybe you just want to have a status of, say, active, right? And maybe that's default, okay? And then maybe you have another one that's, I don't know, let's just say that we call it inactive. Not rocket surgery, no brain science, but it's definitely something that would make sense for you guys if that's what you wanted to do. And then you could obviously kind of modify that as well. All right, so coming up here back to the top of the screen, you'll notice that we're looking at the customers. So whether we're trying to find a customer, so in this case, maybe I'm looking for the Chase Bank. So very simply put, click on that, gives me that information. If I needed to come in here and click edit, I'd have the ability to do so. And the reason why is because, well, for one, you'll notice that it has the words chase.com listed here. And the reason why is because, well, if that particular customer that you're supporting, you can put their email domain in. So therefore, no matter how many employees they have, and even if it's someone that you do not have a current relationship with, that putting that domain in, for example, will auto route any ticket that comes from that chase.com domain, that it'll automatically associate itself back with the Chase Bank company, okay? Then you'll notice under here very quickly, you'll see the contact information. You can add in customers. You can add in employees of those companies. You can even make someone a primary point of contact so that they're listed and available to be used as a response towards any ticket. So in this case, you'll see where we have in Testy. Well, if I came in and I said, well, helps when I click on the technician instead, you'll see where we have a primary point of contact, so that way they could be available for everyone in regards to responses to tickets. Because there are scenarios where somebody says, you know what, I need to actually email the end customer that actually opened the ticket, but I also need to send another email, or send that same email and copy in the owner of the company or something like that, right? Because they're going to have to approve it. So therefore, you could select them because they'd be available anywhere, no matter if they were listed as a part of the Synology or even the QNAP area, okay? Then as far as tickets wise, well, that's just broken down by this one customer alone. So you could break that down very quickly and easily. Then you'll see the word projects here. Now, the word project in this is not even misleading. It's just a name that you can designate as such. So therefore, you can basically create a service item or plan. and be able to use that word project with it. So therefore, it just breaks it out of scope. Now, you'll see the words here, rates and service items. Don't be confused with the rate templates and service plans we looked at before. Basically, the word rates and service items in this case are talking about at the customer level. Now, the key is when we're looking at the rates or the service items, is that you'll notice that there's another source over here, or a column for source under the service plan or service items. This column is actually referring to where did it come from. So think of it as like policies that you've applied to your customers, and if it's a part of multiple versus it's being created locally here, how was it applied? So you can see in this case, there's a little man with a circle around him. That's telling me it's a custom service item for this customer alone. But then separately, you'll see at the top here with a server standard flat fee, that this one actually was created as a service plan that is attached to a program level. So again, it's all about your looking at your agreements. And the great part about doing things as far as a program level and then adding those as a service plan is that when things change and update and modify in the future, it's not annoying to you, did I get them all? You do it at the top level. Again, it's like a policy. It propagates down, saves you so much time.
So Jeff,
Yes.
how much more do you have to work through? Because we're at 50 minutes now.
I honestly, I'm really about done. I mean, do you want to go ahead and knock out questions? We can do that.
I do, because I want to make sure for the people that have to leave at the top of the hour, we can hopefully answer those. So guys, go ahead and make sure you're checking out the Q&A section, ask a question on the bottom, and vote for the questions. I'm going to ask them in the order of highest votes. Number 1, can I process payments from within MSP Manager?
Unfortunately, not directly in the product. It would have to be an export to the integrations that we currently have, whether it be QuickBooks Online or desktop or the Xero solution.
Okay, fair enough. The QuickBooks integration, is it a real integration? Is it like a two-way sync with invoices and products?
So there are the two options that we have, one being the QuickBooks Online, which is an API call. So it does bring that information in. So for example, if I go to the settings area and then go to integrations, you'll notice that when I click configure, this is actually going to make a call back to, say, QuickBooks, for example, and update the information. Now, the desktop is actually an SDK that is pulling that information, is pushing that information out to your QuickBooks desktop account. So the online version is actually integrated a little bit more in regards to that. The desktop version just gives you a way to push that information out via the QuickBooks web connector.
Okay, excellent. Next, are there any ways to track technicians' time and report on it? Ooh, where to go? Not just export the data, but look at the data in a meaningful way to tell what their utilization was like.
That's a good question. Not only you're asking about the time, you're asking about their total time. Well, that's going to assume that we know how much time they've actually been employed or when they clock in. So it may be a situation where we actually would have to have them actually open up tickets on their own within their own company so that we know how long they worked that day versus how much time they entered. Does that make sense?
Got it. So this is not doing employee clock-ins, clock-outs like one or two of the other PSAs can do. And it's
not
also
directly, no.
And I know with there's no reason to tiptoe around this. I'm going to name names, okay?
Sure.
Autotask, I don't think does clock in, clock out, but what it does have is you can say, here's the hours these employees work.
Right.
And you're also able to say, here's what this employee costs me per hour. And, so between knowing that, what their shift looks like and knowing what their cost per hour is, you're able to look at the billable, non-billable, and in scope of a contract and somehow figure out what their utilization looks like.
And that's assuming that that particular employee was the main go-to for that particular customer, or does that part not matter?
I would assume it's based on ticket. So if a ticket's opened for a customer, employee works on that ticket, then it would somehow, and this part honestly is beyond me because as a one person MSP, I
Right.
just don't care about that type of metric.
Sure.
However, I could see where somebody would want to understand not only is, and I think it also goes to, is the employee profitable? Is the contract profitable? Was the ticket profitable? That type of stuff. And trying to look at all of that data and tell you,
Sure.
yes or no. But obviously with data that you understand how to look at.
Right, right. Well, for example, under the company dashboard, that we did have the ability to look at the user stats. So you could see how much money that they have, how much time or how much money they're going to bill, how much has been completed, that kind of information. Plus, you could see what is billable versus unbillable. Also, how much they have billed, right? Then there was the other option where you can go into service utilization. I don't know if they've built a way as of yet for you to be able to cross those two bits of data. So I can tell you if that technician is billing out money. I can tell you if that service utilization, if it's quality work, are you over on the agreement? Do we need to renegotiate, that kind of thing? So you can see, for example, there are 12 billable hours and they're at the 14 mark at this point. They've actually gone over by 17%. You see what I mean? So we can see if those agreements are good or not. I might have to talk to a couple of more people on my side to see if there's anything in the works that would allow that to be kind of merged together, so that not only could you see service utilization, but you could see technician utilization against those services, because that's kind of what they're looking for. I'll have
Understood.
to, yep. All right, I'll have to
And
check on that.
and he put a follow up, and I'm not sure if we touched on it or not. Johnny, feel free to add some more comments to this. Can it track and report technician productivity? Is that what you're going to look at, the user stats?
Correct. Yeah,
Okay,
because we wouldn't know how productive they were until we know what they didn't do.
fair enough. Okay, next question. Are there plans to bring automated workflows into MSP Manager? I know that you started showing us some of the workflows and things like that. How in depth do you see these automations becoming? And is there an ETA on them?
So I absolutely see that becoming quite rather deep, be honest with you, because under the workflow and routing rules, this is coming out fairly soon in regards to starting from the remote management side, for example. What they're doing is allowing you to be able to auto route tickets that are check failures from the RM dashboard. So one of the biggest pet peeves that we've ever had from anyone that used a PSA ticketing solution is being able to limit which issues are opened up as tickets, right? So being able to go in and filter that and be able to create rules that basically stop things from happening. So I don't know if there's any SolarWinds RMM customers on or trialists in the past. One of the most common things that I ever had them ask was, say, for example, if it were say that when there's a ticket title that contains, and say it's the words performance, and there's performance monitoring, if anybody's ever seen that before,
Mhm.
basically saying that do not create ticket. So you could replace that word performance with anything that doesn't matter to you in the RM dashboard, and that's phase one. And once they get that going, they're actually going to make phase two and allow that to be for any ticket that comes into the solution. So I'm super excited about that.
Very cool. And I'm going to follow up on this. I actually have to find the question. Here it is. Can MSP Manager trigger any scripts or automations? So I would say this is where MSP Manager, excuse me. This is where MSP Manager would almost need to like work together with the RMM, and I would assume
Right.
it would have to be N Central at this point. No offense to MSP RMM.
Nope, no
Um,
problem.
So can it trigger scripts or automations through itself? So I know a
Yeah,
big
tell me
thing.
more.
Sorry, what was that?
I said, tell me more, because I don't even know if it would need to make it this far.
So perfect example. Let's look at the ConnectWise stack.
Okay.
If somebody went to my website and filled out a form and said, I want to sign up for Steve's awesome AV software product,
Gotcha. I hear that's a good one.
can that form, assuming they put their payment information in and all that kind of stuff, I would want that form to create a customer in MSP Manager, create a
Okay.
customer in N Central,
Okay.
create the agent, send an email out using MSP Manager, because obviously N Central isn't going to send out notices to customers. Basically,
True.
go through a whole list of almost like doing the basics of customer onboarding for us, like with what ConnectWise is able to do with Tracks,
Right.
along with their manage and automate products. How the two of them can kind of work together.
Right.
Um,
Right.
can it do that, or something
Currently,
like it?
currently not yet. I was thinking you were going to go off of the an alert came off of your dashboard, for example, and it triggered an email that before the email was triggered, I needed to run a task or two beforehand. But I could see why that would be a little different. Got it. Currently, no, but that's a good question. I'm actually going to ask that very question to product management.
Somebody asked if pricing is covered.
Um,
One second. Let me convert that to a question. Start answering. Go.
Good times. I don't know if we should cover pricing or not, because I think it may be best if would it be okay for just them to send me an email and I get them in touch with the proper representative? Is that okay?
That's fine. Can we at least say, is it competitive or comparable to the big two?
It's competitive. I think it's about. I'm just gonna. It's around a $50 mark per technician.
Okay. That seems reasonable, and obviously, I think it's safe to say with all of these products, your mileage may vary as far as what kind of pricing you're able to achieve, because maybe you have a huge company, you sign a longer contract, you pay up front. There's all
Yep.
sorts of reasons a price can change. So I think that's a fair response to the pricing.
Yeah, and obviously, if you speak to a sales rep at that point, depending on if you talk to them at the end of the month, maybe they give you a great deal. I don't know. There you go. Yeah, it looks like Matt's got it all together there.
Yep. So, how does MSP Manager deal with self-healing?
So how does it deal with self-healing?
That seems like it would be
So,
more of an N Central question to me.
well, I know what they're asking, because say, for example, unless I'm wrong, so when I bring this up, the person that asked the question, for example, I'm assuming that you're referring to, say there's a problem in the dashboard and it triggered a ticket, and then you wanted a script or some kind to run and actually it close itself. Is that what you're kind of referring to?
I th- I th- I think let's look at it like this. Let's say the RMM triggers an issue. I would assume
Okay.
it then creates a ticket.
Yes. Yep.
Um,
Oh, and
wow.
then the issue is resolved. Yeah, so it actually closes itself.
Okay. Not a
A-
problem.
And if it's using the Incentral solution, I believe that you can set it up to add, say, 15 minutes of time for the work that was completed, and then it actually adds that back to the ticket.
Excellent. Let's see here. Next question. Does SolarWinds actually use MSP Manager to run its own business?
So funny that they asked that. Unfortunately, no, because you wouldn't be able to find the bugs in your own system if you're using your own system because you wouldn't know it's a bug. No, we use another solution for management worldwide.
Does it rhyme with Mailsport?
It does. It does. Yes, that is correct. I thought you were going to say similar to buy, not force, something like that. Yeah. Yep.
All right. Are there any plans to add a CRM element to MSP Manager in the near future? And what is the ETA?
They are planning on adding some more CRM type functionality into the product. I don't have an ETA for you, but if I get the information for whoever that sent that, or I can at least send it back to you, Steve, and I'll definitely get you an answer.
That sounds great. Following up to his question, is there a roadmap available for this somewhere?
Not publicly, but I will tell you that they will be discussing the roadmap at our Empower event in Scottsdale, Arizona in September.
Very nice. IT Glue. When you going to integrate?
I don't have a time frame there. They do integrate directly with the two monitoring solutions that we have, but yeah, I'll have to find out.
Hopefully next week.
It's a fine product, I hear.
When integrating with QuickBooks Online, is there or will there be an option for the invoices to have the email field filled out and all payment options checked?
Currently, there is not, but it's a good question because sometimes it's either the limitation of the SDK itself, because I'm assuming that they have the desktop version. It's possible they may have online, I'm not sure. But I always think of the desktop first. But basically, it's a limitation of either the SDK itself, or it's the limitation of the developers that created it from the SDK. So if they didn't add that information in to be pulled over, obviously it's not going to populate. So I don't have a good answer other than currently it does not. And I'm not going to call it a feature request because I think that information should come in anyway. I just think it's probably, I would ask them if they haven't used it already or ask them to open a support ticket on that if they haven't already.
Okay. Can it pull locations from the RMM or is that still manual?
I'm sorry, say that again?
Locations. So I don't know if Johnny means, so for example, if I've already got these 30 customers in MSP RMM, can it pull those customers into MSP Manager? Or do I have to manually create them?
From QuickBooks, is that what you're referring to?
And Central.
Oh.
Or QuickBooks. Let's say both. I mean, why not, right?
All right, so best case scenario, it should bring that information over or into from, say, InCentral and the RM product and even, but not QuickBooks. It's not going to bring the company names in, but there are two CSVs that support can do the import for you. One of those being of customers, and the other one is locations and contacts. So, so all you'd have to do is basically fill out the CSV, send it back to support, and they could actually do that import of that information for you.
Okay. So it integrates essentially between MSP Manager and Central.
Yes.
To the point where if a customer exists in NCentral, it will exist in MSP Manager because it's going to link the two together.
Well, correct. Now, it may be worst case scenario that it may be where you go in and select a drop down where you're mapping the two together, but it will indeed connect the two.
Perfect. And then since we brought up the QuickBooks earlier, how does QuickBooks know who you're billing?
So
is it just a dumb sync where if they're already in QuickBooks, they need to have the exact same name, or is it a drop down?
Okay. It's actually it needs to have the same name, correct?
So Johnny says, no, you can link, but you cannot pull going from N Central to MSP Manager.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
to clarify, if someone's in N Central and they don't yet exist in MSP Manager, I sign up with MSP Manager. Does it bring in the company name from N Central, or do I have to import that using the thing?
You would have to do the import. Now, I will tell you on the SolarWinds RMM side of it, that does automatically populate all that information. I was mistaken. I was thinking that they had the same functionality of the two integrations, but I apologize.
Gotcha. How tight is the integration with the RMMs? IME dated August 2017. It was lacking with both Enable and LabTech.
So as far as
with LabTech still.
what? Oh, MSP Manager?
Yeah.
Correct. It only has the integrations that we have currently are the two RM platforms and obviously the QuickBooks and Xero for now.
So is there some kind of like sheet or brochure or something that shows like here is what integrates between N Central or MSP RMM and MSP Manager? And here's how they work together?
Technically no, but I can definitely get you something if that's what someone's looking for.
Okay. What kind of business planning can I do with MSP Manager?
Give me a little more on that. What are you looking for?
That's a great question. I'm going to wait for him to respond to that. I imagine he's probably looking to figure out how to plan. Oh, he said historicals and projections. So it sounds like money.
Okay. Now, I know first off, there's a resource center for the business side of it in general. So, for example, not even with the actual product itself, but it's a part of our entire SolarWinds MSP platform that it's not only good to know the products technically, but also to how to run a business as well. So they have a whole nother webinar series in regards to billing and how to do everything that you were just referring to.
And he said that now, to be fair, I am going to give you guys the benefit of the doubt because
Okay.
he was a customer of yours a year ago, and this
Okay.
guy switched. Okay, so he did say that the resource center is lacking. So,
Okay.
what?
Now they did just come out with a new. They did come out with a new webinar series that
Okay,
just started pushing out within the last, say, 3 months. So I'm not going to say they're wrong because it's possible at the time I didn't see it, but I do know that they are definitely putting a focus on that. So, for example, you go to SolarWindsMSP.com, and then under resources, MSP Institute, and they have business trainings now. So these are on demand and videos, and then there's also additional information as well. So, and I think I think there's about 12 webinars that they put together. I think. Here, let's check.
wait, and I don't even have to log in to have access to this.
Not these, no. No, these are these are initial videos. Obviously, a deeper dive would be inside the resource center, but we want to make sure that our customers know that the information is available. So definitely.
Fair enough. How much of a financial deep dive can MSP Manager provide? Can he track his category, subcategory, item?
So, for example, it's not an inventory management. So that's something that I actually want them to add. And believe it or not, that is something that they are working on. It's creating what they call an inventory catalog so that you could do more management in regards to, or possibly better integrations with products that rhyme with IT glue, right? So let's see. uh, so anyway, within the help desk area, there is a place not only for obviously time entries and appointments, but there's also the option for, say, expenses. Now, again, it's not an inventory management necessarily, but it does allow you to map something back to a QuickBooks item so that you could at least tag it. So when you're making the invoice, you could go in and reference the proper item. So.
And he actually meant category, subcategory, item for tickets.
Oh, sorry.
So, no, it's okay. So, if the ticket is a break fix regarding a monitor, that type of stuff. So, is he able to look at a financial deep dive of how much? I bet the question he's really looking for is, how much time are my techs spending on this type of ticket, so that way eventually he can look and figure out how can I automate this so they don't spend as much time.
That's actually a really good question. I don't have a good answer for that one yet, but I'm going to ask. So basically, how much time are we spending on a particular type of issue?
Yeah. So, and I'll tell you, this is a ConnectWise user. So
Sure.
he would want to see your product be ridiculously granular to ever consider switching from them to you.
Sure, I understand. I mean, people would switch an RM platform in a heartbeat, but their ticketing PSA, that is the business. So completely understand. And it would have to be at least a lateral transfer, if not better, for that to happen. So nope, I'm not stupid. I absolutely totally get it. So
Hear that, Johnny? He's not stupid.
not completely. only half stupid, Johnny.
All right. We already answered this one. So current RMM integrations include the SolarWinds platforms, MSP RMM and N-Central. Are
Currently,
you
yes.
planning to open this up to third-party RMM tools?
That is a good question. So I was expecting the API question, but that's a good question. I'm going to have to find that one out too. I've never been asked that before. Good question.
So nobody's ever asked you, can I use MSP Manager with Kaseya?
Unfortunately, no. Normally, it's the other way around. They want to know what does MSP Manager integrate with, and we answer the question, and yeah, they never ask more. So, okay.
Now, you said you thought it was the API question.
Yeah, I was going to go.
You threw
Go ahead.
yourself under the bus, Jeff. Answer the API question.
No, I'm answering that now. So we're actually adding in an API. See, I set you up. So we added. We're actually adding in an API. We're going to be using OData to initially to use it for being able to pull information out for basically using an integration of Power BI and OData to be able to create a customized dashboard. We're going to call those workspaces so that you could customize, basically looking for what you're interested in. So to answer the earlier questions about productivity and whatnot, it's possible that the information is in the system, it just hasn't been pulled out properly yet. So if that's the case, it may be a situation where we may be able to create an interactive dashboard where think of them as widgets that can be moved around on that workspace area that might be able to answer that question for you. So yeah, that's coming as well in the next quarter.
So with these widgets and dashboards, I mean, would you, assuming we're talking about information coming from SolarWinds products, would you say that your dashboard would be as good as something that maybe rhymes with BrightGauge?
It's very possible. Very possible.
Okay.
Obviously, the initial release, we're not going to say that either, but the goal would be, yeah, exactly. Our goal is to make a great product for our customers. So whatever that is, that's what we'll work towards.
So, you keep talking about all this stuff that you guys are building.
Yes.
How often are you releasing updates?
About every 2 weeks.
And how often? So I'm going to look at this as the Apple model. Okay. So now they're building out iOS 12. Okay.
Right. Okay.
And I know this because I'm running iOS 12 on my production iPhone because I'm not very good at this apparently. I like to live dangerously.
That is so funny. Good
so
times.
so they started the beta process where developers and then eventually the public will be able to download and start using it. And I assume that's kind of what NGP is for you.
That's exactly it. The difference is there's additional features inside of the NGP that if you would like to be a part of that beta as well. So for example, the workflows, that's one beta group. Then the workspaces we were talking about, that would be another beta group as well. So think of it as the NGP is the key to the new betas as well. So
and did we talk about, like, do you know what NGP stands for? Because I just assume it means next generation product or PSA.
That's exactly it. Next generation product.
Okay. So, all right. So if we're looking at this as the Apple model, I mean, are you releasing a big update every year and then little incremental ones? Or are you releasing, like, every 2 weeks? Is it an iOS 12, an iOS 13, where it's 100 new features that, you know what I mean? Like, or is it not even like that, because what you're doing is you're breaking down all these features and you're saying we don't need to do one big release because we're going to push out what we can incrementally.
Right, exactly. Think of it as on the back end development teams, they have, their groups, their teams, their sprints, and when things are done, they push it out. Why do you wait? So, I mean, other than for QA and testing, but as long as it functionally works, there's no need to keep it back. Push it out, give it to the customers. I mean, that's the whole point of the SaaS model. So,
and I gotta say, man, I'll throw them under the bus. That's one thing that I couldn't stand about Autotask is it was I want to say 6 to 8 months late for their new ticket UI that they launched. And so, like, I don't even know if they released any updates until 2017 or 2016.1.
Wow.
Which normally, like, they do like 3 or 4 a year. Their first one wasn't until they did Autotask Live.
Right.
So they went from Autotask Live to another Autotask Live, and they didn't release the one thing that they demoed at the last Autotask Live.
Wow. Good times.
Yeah. So from what I'm hearing, you're not going to make people wait on one feature because you want to release all of these features at once and blow our minds. You're going to release things incrementally. So if you have a new ticket UI, you'll release that, even if the new knowledge base UI isn't ready yet.
Yep, correct. And no one even brought that up. We're actually going to rebuild the end user portal and focus with knowledge base.
Cool.
So that way there could be, say, FAQs available for your end customer directly, because the best customer is the one that doesn't call you, but their questions are answered and they're happy.
Okay. I'm just looking through these comments here. So somebody said, let's see here. I'm going to skip the pricing conversation.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be the same name, but if it's not the same name, you need to type its QuickBooks name into accounting reference name. Okay, so that's okay. So if you have IT glue and then IT glue, comma, Inc. period, you could type in the comma, Inc. period into the accounting reference name with an MSP Manager.
You're absolutely right. That's true, because the company name and then there's the account reference. Nope, that's right. Absolutely right.
Okay. And then it looks like he did a lot of onboarding and training.
Okay.
This guy wound up hiring a consultant after, and they actually helped us build out MSP Manager the way they wanted it built out.
Okay.
Once they got things sorted out, the cost seemed like it was worth it. They still use the consultant as needed once in a while when they find something weird or want to change something. Otherwise, MSP Manager just kind of rolls along.
Awesome.
Oh, I'm sorry. He was talking about ConnectWise. We'll see what happens when you guys have a different conversation in the comments.
That's fantastic. Thanks, Jay and Matt. That was a good chuckle today.
We're here to talk about SolarWinds, darn it.
Good times.
Johnny said a toddler can set up MSP Manager. And
Yeah,
I'll say that's because your product is so darn easy. It's so darn easy to work with, not because it doesn't have much to do.
I see that.
Matt really wants a sneak peek at the roadmap.
Okay, so since you guys were talking about it, here's a webinar apparently that Greg Lissy has performed. So I didn't technically give it to you, but it is on our website. So on-demand webinars, and one of those is called Product Series, and there's a product roadmap.
So with that said, I mean, you did technically tell this to us.
I did.
And we know that because it is forever on the internet, because this is streamed live on YouTube, everybody, and
Fantastic.
Facebook.
Awesome.
However, it's not like we went and found something secret.
That's true.
You told us something we don't even have to log in to find.
That's true.
So that's good. So for those of you that want to see the roadmap, you can go to SolarWindsMSP.com into the resources section, and there is a 2018 product roadmap video. And Johnny said that there's more questions. You're right, Johnny. There are 6 questions still. Holy cow, Jeff. We've already answered 15. These guys are great today.
Yeah.
Will MSP Manager create the products in QuickBooks if that product does not exist yet? Or does it just have to be manually mapped?
Manually mapped.
Okay. So if I create a new product or service in MSP Manager, let's call it a service, and we'll call it we'll call it Steve's Ransomware as a service.
Okay.
If someone actually buys my ransomware as a service, I create my contract and whatever, I create the invoice, it tries to push that invoice over to QuickBooks. What happens? Because I haven't gone in and told anything at all to MSP Manager or QuickBooks about Steve's Ransomware as a service yet. Is that invoice just going to fail?
Well, remember, you said that you made it an MSP Manager, so a requirement to create billing is that you need to have a service planner item created. And you see under the settings area, and going to integrations, and then say QuickBooks. We'll just go to the online just because they're the same. Basically, based on what kind of agreement they are. So if you created it, maybe it's a flat fee, so maybe it was a flat charge, that you would actually set it up so that it automatically had one. Now, if it did not have an automatic or default mapping, yes, it would not show up in your QuickBooks account and fail.
Okay. So everything has to be mapped. There is the answer.
Yes. And on a side note for that, I want them to be a bit more granular because not all flat fee amounts are the same. So so that's absolutely something I want them to do.
Okay. And I forgot to hit the start answering button on that. So for those of you that actually clicked the button right now to start answering, you got to scroll back like 2 minutes. Oops. All right. Which do these notifications... Oh, what do these notifications look like for the people to which it was sent? And this was regarding the appointment notifications. So I think what he wants to know is, what does the notification look like to customers when we schedule one of those appointments and we notify them about it?
So under the templates, notification templates.
And this is the thing that we can fully customize using HTML.
Correct.
As long as you know how to code HTML.
Yep, exactly.
And if we don't know how to code HTML, can we say, hey, Jeff, can I just hire one of your people over there at SolarWinds to customize this for me? Or is that a
I think
dumb idea?
it's not a dumb idea. I mean, when you want someone else to do things and they'll accept money for it, no. We don't offer that feature or service, but
Okay.
I can't say that it'll never happen. I mean,
Okay.
if you ask the right guy and he's wanting to do some extra work, then sure.
Can I just want to throw something out there.
Sure.
Themeforest.net. I'm even going to put it in the chat here. So for those of you that are like, if you don't do HTML or you're just not proficient enough to code the whole darn thing yourself, you go to themeforest.net, and for like under $50, you can buy a template, and then you could customize that template and slap it into MSP Manager. Or you can also use ThemeForest's parent company, Envato, and you can hire somebody to make some custom HTML stuff for you. And I would say that should be under a few $100, depending on how much customization you need. So I just wanted to throw that out there just in case people are like, well, this sounds great, but I don't have time for all that crap.
Here's another one. Oh, actually, sorry, that's for company logo notifications. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, it's privacy. Sorry.
No problem. All right. I just put a little fun little button on the bottom here. If you guys want to join MSP webinars, become a member, and get access to a bunch of cool stuff, feel free to do so. That's my pitch. That's my hard sell today. Okay. All right. User stats billable to accounting platforms. Johnny, I'm sorry. I'm going to need you to elaborate on that one, brother. User stats billable to accounting platform. So I think it's asking if it's going to transfer anything other than an invoice to QuickBooks or Xero.
No, it would only be the invoice and the information added. So, for example, inside of a ticket, it's going to add the time entry detail. So, for example, inside of the ticket, so when I talk slowly.
And he said he did follow up. He showed the technician metrics. Can they be sent over to QuickBooks? And I bet the answer is no.
It's correct. It is no currently. That is correct.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
No. Okay. Will there be a workflow available such as if X client send to Y queue? So can you assign a queue based on the client?
I don't see why not. That would absolutely make sense to me, because at that point, yeah, you could create a queue and break it down. I'm going to say yes. I haven't even technically seen it yet, but at that point is where you could have, say, even the internal technician that could own that queue. So therefore, all tickets go there so that they could manage it.
Okay, and if you could just show us, look for it real quick, and make me feel good about myself for doing my job right.
Assign queue, right there.
Okay.
So yeah,
so
assign
condition queue. If client equals X, then action Q equals Y. Assign Q to Y.
Customer name contains. Yep, and then you just assign Q. Yeah,
that's perfect.
Yeah,
that's perfect. And I assume you can do multiple actions. So we could say, I want you to assign this queue. I want you to set this priority,
yes.
So on and so forth. And Ben, I don't know if you saw earlier, if this is the Ben I'm thinking of, this might not actually matter to you, but right now anyway. But as you grow, if you hire a bunch of people, can you show us that user skills page again? Because that is cool, man. I gotta say, that's something I've never seen in another RMM tool, and I say kudos to you guys for this. So basically, this says you kind of grade or score people based on what they're capable of doing.
Yep, correct.
Or even what you want them to be doing. Like, you might not want your tier 3 guy doing, have you turned it off and back on? Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, basically
So,
basically your CCNA guy doesn't need to be working with the Facebook is slow at lunch today.
okay, I just had 2 guys tell me ConnectWise has it, and then someone else said Autotask has this as well. But is it actually routing the tickets based on this information? Nobody's ever shown this feature off to me. I mean, it's never been like a, hey, let's show people this.
Right.
When I've looked at those other PSAs, and to be fair, they might not have cared to show it to me because I'm just one guy. Okay, so they both say it can. So never mind. No more kudos. This is just, par for the course.
Yeah, this
Never
is
mind.
just
I take
yeah,
it all back.
yes, that is correct.
And Zach said skill-based routing gets big and complicated at scale. So, all right. So going back to Ben's original question, can any RMM tool like Kaseya send an email to MSP Manager to create a ticket? And I know the answer to this because the answer is yes, because you
Email
have
script.
the ability to accept tickets. And you could, so unfortunately, I know Ben is using Kaseya. And I know you're going to frown at this, but he's got a really fantastic deal. And I mean, you guys are welcome to try and beat it. Okay. I'll
Sure.
tell you that. So, and we don't have to talk about that. That's fine. So with that said, though, oh, okay, we're good. With that said, you can have it so Kaseya emails MSP Manager, creates the ticket, and you can go into those workflow rules, and you could. It's going to take a lot of work, but you could create a rule for like every customer that says, if subject contains Chase Bank, then assign customer, right?
Yes.
I guess I didn't see that, so we should probably confirm assign customer is one of those workflow rules somehow, or some type of rule. Because if it's always coming from, no reply at tayloritgroup.com, you know what I mean?
I do. It may be a part of the phase 2 because technically this is all coming from the RM dashboard first.
Gotcha.
But I'm pretty confident that would be an option.
It's the action part that I'm worried about. So no, right now it can only set priority, assign tech, service plan. Okay, so contact.
The term contact is an end user's customer, or excuse me, an employee of a customer you support.
So how does that? I don't see an option for that. Like, I see assign contact, but it doesn't say what contact to assign.
My guess.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's weird.
My guess is that this is a part of the beta. Oh, here we go. No. Yeah, this is. Oh, there you go. Enter contact email address right there.
Okay, so you could that would be a pain in the butt. And I think Jeff's official answer, Ben, is you can do it, but you're better off switching to MSP RMM or N-Central. No? Maybe?
That's the easy answer. Yes.
That is the easy answer. It can be done, but it would take a lot of work to set up so that it's actually assigning these tickets. Now, if you have a bunch of tickets being created that are like, if they come from Kaseya, automatically assign it to my company, and then can I go into a ticket and change the company?
Yeah. I mean, at that point.
Or could I have Kaseya make ticket requests like you showed off earlier, and then from that ticket request, would it actually give me the option to quickly assign that to a customer and a contact?
Yeah. Well, the thing is that if it's a request, you can go in and create ticket, and then at that point, now you've got a ticket that you just hit save, and now I have a ticket. So yeah.
And then I
go
can, and then I have to go in. So that would probably be the easiest.
Yep.
Just because at least it's got all the information there, and now all you got to do is, have it create as a ticket request. That way, it's not affecting your SLAs, and then you can come into the request and set these up as tickets for you. And a ticket request, you can have that notify you. Correct.
Correct.
If a ticket request comes in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that would come back to the notifications area of who needs to be notified. So correct.
Ben, you're using Repair Shopper right now, if I recall correctly. Okay. And see, guys, this is what it means to be a member of MSP Webinars. I get to know you. So in the creepiest way possible.
Johnny, I'm with you on that one, buddy.
Ben, that's a really good shirt on you right now, by the way. How does he know? So Repair Shopper is, I'm just going to keep it 100. Repair Shopper is ugly as sin. I couldn't stand using it. However, it does have some cool features in it. Like you can do the credit card charges right through the PSA, or I don't know if I'd call it a PSA. It's pretty cool.
Sure.
Some of these features, but I think that in the long run, something like this is going to serve an MSP better, especially if you're releasing new features every 2 weeks.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. It may be okay right now, but they're absolutely putting crazy amounts of development efforts into it. Even if you aren't ready, just keep an eye on it. That's all I'd say. Just keep an eye on the product.
So, all right, I see a bunch of questions on YouTube here. Is there a roadmap on the website? The answer is yes-ish. I'm going to scroll and I'm going to find that video URL, and I'm going to paste this into YouTube so that way he can have access to that.
Okay.
One thing I love about ConnectWise, they have a roadmap clearly laid out on the site. The roadmap is a single statement that's not really desirable. Compared to ConnectWise, that's minuscule. Okay, so Mr. Atari 911, you're just a mean person. No, I mean, he makes a fair point. If you're comparing MSP Manager to ConnectWise, it feels like you're comparing David to Goliath, and sure. I'm not going to say which one Goliath is because that.
It's pretty obvious.
It's a really confusing statement when you think of it.
Totally. Well, we have to start somewhere. I can tell you that, and yes. It will definitely get better.
Now I remember seeing Capture at what was it? It might have been around 3 years ago.
Yep.
Right around when I saw them or not them, but I saw the other guys that Kaseya bought.
What, KMS or?
Yeah, and I don't remember what KMS used to be. It started with a letter. I don't know, whatever. Anyway, so I met the guys from the one that was at Kaseya that turned into Kaseya BMS. And back before Kaseya bought them, it was actually my wife and I at ASCII, and my wife got a really weird vibe from the guy. Not like he's trying to hit on her, like
right.
She just didn't have that warm fuzzy, I think we should sign up with these guys kind of feeling. And I always felt like their product was identical to the Capture product back then. And what it has turned into, when I look at NGP versus BMS, I'm sorry, I just hit my microphone. NGP versus BMS, they're like two completely different animals now.
Right.
So let me go over a couple things that I noticed with BMS that makes me want to stab people, primarily developers for BMS. Okay. So can I bulk create all of my invoices on the first?
You're asking me that?
Yes.
Yes. So if we went to the billing area,
I think my wife hears the ice cream truck and she's running around the house looking for money that I'm just going to throw over to her. And
awesome.
I just tossed an envelope filled with money at my wife. That's how I roll, guys.
Good times. Oh, this is awesome.
Oh, that's good.
I know.
Guys, I assure you it's all singles. What's up? I can't hear her anyway. All right, so I can create all the invoices at once. Now with BMS, it was I approve the contracts and I verify that all of these different items are correct. They're the right number, they're the right price, so I approve them. And then I look and I see, all right, there's these 50 invoices I gotta email out. So now I gotta approve the invoice.
After you've already approved them?
Yeah, even though I already approved the items, now I have to approve the invoice. And I have to create the invoice. And then I go to a third window and my invoices that I just created aren't actually created. They're ready to be created. And what I would have to do is I would have to click on each individual invoice and then click create or build or something like that. And then it would, what would it do? How would it do it? And then I would have to choose my template for the invoice. And from there, it would then let me synchronize that one invoice to QuickBooks Online. And then I would have to repeat that 49 more times for the other, rest of the 50 invoices.
That's painful.
It was painful, which is why I only did invoicing out of BMS twice.
All right. So apparently mine timed out. So I'm just doing it in a different browser for this one.
No problem. So, I talk about this stuff because I want people to understand, like, there are pain points beyond, is the ticket interface pretty? And like, when you're smaller or just starting up, like, you don't think about, oh, how is the invoicing process? What do you mean by frozen, Andre? Do you see me? Hear me? Anything? He said he's got to open up a different browser. He'll be back probably, maybe. We'll wrap this up without him. I have a special that I'm offering for SolarWinds MSP Manager. Buy one, get the next user same price. That's my offer. It's the best you're going to get from me. No. Why does it say I'm frozen? I never left. All right, I'm going to reload because people are saying I'm frozen. All right, are you guys able to see me, hear me, anything? Bueller? Okay, good. So I don't know where Jeff went. I'm sorry. So I'll
Can you hear me?
don't know.
I don't know what happened.
Now I can hear you. You're back.
I don't know what happened. Everything just kind of like crapped out there.
Okay. So I blame your bandwidth problem that you're having. Too many people running torrents. You're all downloading the Cavs game.
We are.
That we really dropped the ball on.
That means you're a fan because you brought it up.
I mean, I live in Medina, Ohio. I'm like 40 minutes from the Cavs stadium,
Oh, okay.
and I've never been to a Cavs game.
Really? You're such a fan. Oh yeah, I got you.
Let me tell you, man, Cleveland sports are painful, which is why I just don't do sports.
I understand.
All right, so we got to wrap this up because it's going to kick us out of here in 10 minutes. So, because I put a 2-hour hard limit, I don't want to keep people too long.
Gotcha.
So here's my last couple of questions. Will SolarWinds be able to offer members of MSP webinars some type of deal or discount or special of some sort to get us to sign up for MSP Manager?
I'm going to say yes.
Okay. Follow-up question. Are there onboarding fees to get started with MSP Manager?
No onboarding fees.
Okay. Is there a contract or is it month to month?
If it is integrated into your remote management dashboard, it is a month-to-month agreement. If you buy it outside of that, it is a 12-month commit.
Okay. So, and when you said integrated into your remote management dashboard, does that include MSP RM and N-Central?
N-Central is a 12-month commit as well.
Okay.
I think it's a $500 minimum, something like that, to use.
Which makes sense because N-Central is the big boy of the two.
Sure.
That's the one that it's. We'll say it's much more capable because it is, right?
Right.
I mean, it's not a lie.
No.
MSP RMM, is that still also a month-to-month product?
It is. There is a $50 platform charge on that side, but assuming that you've already used the product, that includes your 24-hour tech support and all the business information that we talked about as well. So, yeah.
Okay, so $50 platform fee.
Yes.
So that is not like a minimum, like you have to get $50 worth of stuff. That's even if you get one agent and you spend $1 a month or whatever our costs these days,
yep.
You're going to spend $51 because there's a $50 fee.
That is correct.
To be on the platform.
True.
Okay.
But like I said, no additional fees for training. You can get in touch with your salesperson, or they can contact you to schedule onboarding, so training, any one-offs as well. We don't charge any additional fees for that. So,
can I get a trial of MSP RMM and MSP Manager? Because what I'd like to do is my own little personal walkthrough demo.
Sure.
To show these off a little further for MSP Webinars community.
Sure. Absolutely.
Okay.
Matter of fact, you can actually start a trial of MSP Manager from within the RM dashboard, and that immediately gives you a 30-day trial.
And am I able to sign up with the MSP RM without talking to somebody to get a trial of that, or
yes.
do I have to talk to somebody for that?
Nope, you can do it right online.
So I can just go online and sign up for a trial of both of these things and never have to talk to you guys?
Well, I'm sure they'll call you, but you don't have to answer.
Darn it. You're going to call me?
Well, like I said, you could send them an email and says, what do I have to do to pay for this? So
Johnny said, oh, they call.
Hey, I'm not going to say that they don't, because that's what they get paid to do. So good times. But yeah.
All right.
So absolutely.
Jeff, do you have any final words you'd like to pass on to everybody?
Other than it's been a pleasure. Looks like you got a great group here. Do they meet you every week? Is that how that works?
We meet, so we have webinars once or twice a week.
Okay.
And then once a month we have a webinar that's called the MSP Roundtable, which that's happening next week on Thursday, a week from today.
Okay.
And if you're a member of MSP Webinars, there's actually like a daily, all day long roundtable happening.
Really?
In currently using a Zoom room platform.
Okay.
So if you're familiar with the Zoom meetings webinar app, whatever you want to call it, we use a Zoom room to basically just meet. And I know the other day we were working out Azure issues and migrating from Office 365 to G Suite.
Okay.
And I mean, there's just, we work on like technical things with each other. Johnny just said gross. Migrating from 365 to G Suite, right?
Yeah.
But we also talk about what should my master services agreement have in it. What's gonna give it teeth to actually be enforceable if we were to ever go into litigation, or if Arthur's round table was this dysfunctional.
Funny.
Or one guy the other evening, I was in the room at 10:30 at night. No joke.
Yeah.
I was working on some stuff for a couple clients, and then one of the other guys hopped in, and he's from Vancouver area in Canada, so it was like 7:30 at night for him.
Right.
And he was talking about some employee issues.
Oh.
So we talk about that kind of stuff. Someone brought up that they had to let an employee go because they decided to start their own MSP and then start poaching clients.
I was going to say I bet they feel they can do a better job and make money. Because
I think that's how most of us got here, right?
It's true.
So
it's true.
so we talk about a lot of fantastic stuff in these daily roundtables and in the monthly one too. But obviously when you're able to do it daily, there's a lot more value in it.
Totally true.
So
I could see that.
So yeah, we accomplish a lot of cool stuff. And then one of the perks to being a member of MSP Webinars, besides basically being around a group of your peers all day, every day to help you with stuff.
Sure.
Is discounts on things like MSP Manager.
Yeah. Maybe we'll have to see what we can get on that. I'll get you guys something. I don't know what it's going to be yet, but absolutely.
I appreciate that. Well, thank you so much, Jeff. I'm going to close this out here in just a moment. When I do, it's just going to kind of kick us out. So
okay.
It's not me being rude. It's just what it does. But this was.
You sure?
This was fantastic.
Come on, guys. Is he just being a jerk face about that, or is he?
No. I'm not being a jerk.
Okay.
It's just how this software works. But this was fantastic. In 6 months, a year, whatever. If you guys release a whole bunch of awesome new features,
sure.
You come back and you say, Steve, I need to do another webinar, and I will have you on.
Absolutely. It's been a pleasure, guys.
And Matt said, good luck, Jeff. They know you shared the roadmap.
But it's not like it's on the internet or anything, right?
All right. And if anybody wants to hop in, we're going to be right in the roundtable room right after this. So if you're a member of MSP Webinars, you can get information about the roundtable from our Slack team, which, by the way, we have a way to chat with each other on Slack, even if you cannot get into video, audio chat at the time. So take care, everybody. I hope you have a great day. I'll see you on Tuesday for the tech talk on one of those RMM tools that isn't owned by SolarWinds, Kaseya. And then next Thursday is the roundtable, and a week from that is Tech Reputation with Rami Bell. I hope I didn't butcher that without looking at my notes. But hey, I keep it 100 and we have fun here.
Indeed.
Take care, guys.
All right.
You have a great day.
Indeed. Take care.